Okay, so hi, my name is Julia, and this is my path project. So for my path project, I'll be doing an album, and the album title is called Saloon. The songs in the album will be Lumen, This Time, Me and Meander by Jacob Valley, Waves, Time, A Walk in the Garden, Feather Falls, The Morning Light by Chris Fonchu. And I'll be doing album art for the album cover and one piece for every 2 songs. And they're going to be digital art. And I'm asking Oclef to help with recording, editing, and uploading onto YouTube and Spotify. For the timeline, because I don't have very much free time and digital art isn't easy, I was thinking about moving my project end date from November 19th to around early December. And I'm hoping to finish recording and drawing by the end of November and uploading around the due date. And I'll probably have a set date as I get more and more of the project completed. This is my first pack project, so I wanted to keep it simple. The plan is to take audio recordings of me covering pieces from Jacob Valley and Chris Chu, add art to make it a little more interesting, and upload onto the internet. And I'd like to thank Mr. Julian for the project idea and my friend Amy for helping me with the art.
Okay, great. Thanks, Julia. So you've been working on this for a little bit now. You've learned all these pieces. That's something to also mention. And I'm going to have Chris talk about it since his name's like plastered all over this project.
Yeah, it sounds great. I think your time frame is good since I know that you've already learned all the music and all that stuff and you know it pretty well. I would say in terms, the next thing probably would be kind of figuring out kind of the artist licenses, right, for kind of developing that. And then beyond that, I mean, the recording resources should be good. It seems like it's well thought out, and I think you have a really solid plan, so I don't really have much to say about it.
My question is around the recording. So one thing you'll have to determine, we just finished up the recording process and we're now entering production with Emma Raharja. One thing you might want to figure out is, are you going to make this through MIDI? Are you going to make this through audio? That's one of the big decisions, because that's actually going to change how it's edited. It's going to change how you record it. It's going to change where you record it. It's going to change everything. So you have to, that's a big decision that's on the horizon that you'll have to think through. So to be very specific, you're going to want to decide, is this going to be an acoustic album or is this going to be done through a MIDI controller? Okay, that's going to be the next big decision. I'm going to pass over to Fong here.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, sounds good. So we had a few album proposal, right, in the last few weeks. So I would only encourage you to, start to think outside the box here, right? I think a lot of consumption these days, well, what I see is being more popular in terms of classical music consumption these days is YouTube. And there's lots of interesting things going on YouTube, right? So I would encourage you to explore that. And instead of just creating an audio album that people consume through Spotify and Apple Music, I think a lot of people are now doing it through YouTube. And the videos that are accompanying classical music on YouTube with the, I don't know what it's called, but it shows the hand playing and then the notes coming. I think that's fairly interesting. So explore that and see what you can come up with. Okay.
Great, thanks, Fong. So actually, the interesting thing about that, Julia, that you might want to think through is that we actually have Chris working on that right now as a potential theme for the composition/electronic music class. So that software is something that we already have access to. It's pretty much free, the software. The hard part is the designing of those videos and the recording of those videos. If you are interested in doing that, I do have some suggestions to look at before you get into it. That could be a more artistic, it seems like you're trying to go in this artistic route. And we know for sure that none of the pieces that you have here have been recorded on YouTube in that format. Well, at least unless not, and maybe unless Chris has done it himself, but I don't think he has. So something to think through. I think that's a good suggestion by Professor Fong. Here's Dr. Bell.
Hi, yeah, Julia. So this looks very well organized and thought out. I don't really have too many specific comments other than what's already been said. I think Mr. Fong touched on my one comment, which was going to be, you know, who is your intended audience or viewership, and like how are you planning on connecting? I think he covered it as in the sense of exploring maybe multiple digital streaming platforms. So think about YouTube as well as Spotify and things like that, just to give it as much of a broad distribution as possible. So I think they already touched on that though. Otherwise, yeah, this looks great. I like the integration of the art and the music. That's really well thought out.
Great, thanks, Dr. Bell. Very last point here, Julia. So now at this point, I see you've drawn out your timeline as a paragraph form, but here's what I would suggest. Actually draw out your timeline as like a date, like a calendar. It should look like kind of like a calendar, like what happens on October 25th? What happens on November 4th? I'm making those dates up. But for example, you could say I record 3 of the pieces. Lumen, This Time, and Meander are recorded into a MIDI controller. Then waves, time, whatever. And then by the point of whatever you put here, let's just say November 19, just for example, at that point, you take all of those and you shift into production mode and you get those transferred into videos, or you get those transferred into audio files that can be uploaded to a Spotify. We want to know that at the next stage. So Chris is going to be your point person for this project. Seems like he's getting a nice little collection of path projects at this point. You can use his office hours. You have access to him. You can email him at chris@oclef.com. And yeah, I don't have much more to say other than let's get this to be a little bit more specific along that timeline so that we know exactly how to help you. Everything else in the process seems pretty straightforward. I'd be very excited to have our first, I want to call it like synesthesia. It's not really what it is, but it's something like that album. We haven't had one yet. So that would be something, I think that's the name of the software. I think it's called synesthesia, something like that. So it would be great to have our first synesthesia album. And I would be very excited about promoting that, not only within our school, but outwards. All right. So I know you're actually heading back over to art class right now. So I'll let you go head back over to art class, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Bye.